Hey, all, there is this topic that keeps coming up on stream. Week after week. Important topic. It came up in the first broadcast I did way back the beginning of last year. It came up pretty recently, and it's come up a lot of times in between in various broadcasts that I've done. And that makes sense, because, everybody does it. And that would be poop, of course. Well, not everybody, actually, because if you remember from a couple of weeks ago, I was talking about this Dikaiarchus fragment that says that certain people living in the Golden Age, do not poop. And my goal today is kind of to explain that and also give you this ancient theory of poop that's going to make a lot of sense, I think, of things that I've talked about in broadcasts past, and also things that I'm going to talk about in the future. Now, on this topic, can we, should we, must we even start out with a visit to an old friend Artemidorus of Daldis, the Dreamweaver, the author of the Criticon, the dream manual on which I gave many horrible little talks earlier this year. He is a dream interpreter, and his method of dream interpretation is interesting from an evidentiary point of view, because he tends to kind of interpret dreams on the basis of what he views as a natural symbolism. So he interprets body parts, body movements, bowel movements, in a way that he takes to be their kind of natural symbolic meaning. And of course there are no natural symbolic meanings, but what we can conclude from that is that his audience is probably going to share, by and large, his reading of those symbols. And that's as true for poop as it is anything else. And he does write this whole big section on poo, Book 2 of the Criticon, chapter 26. And it contains, some predictable things. He says, for instance, that animal manure is good for farmers to see in a dream, but human poo is generally bad to see in a dream. 4 legs good, 2 legs bad when it comes to the pooper. And if you see someone poop in a public place, you should not go there. Like if you see some stranger pooping in the agora, don't go to the agora, right? Because, normally you would avoid places where people aggressively poop because of smell and hygiene and all that. So that's what happens if you see somebody somebody else pooping in a dream. But if you see yourself pooping in public in a dream, that means that everybody hates you. That means that you're about to earn a great deal of public hate, because people don't like public poopers, in antiquity as much as now. Well, but human poop is not always bad in a dream. Sometimes it's good. If, for instance, a rich guy poops on your head in a dream, that's great, because it means you're going to inherit all of his shit. You'll, figuratively as well as literally. Sense of filthy lucre, money being somehow similar to excrement, is also present, it seems, in the Greek worlds of Artemidorus. So that's one situation in which it is good to see human poop. And then there's this other one, which is if you just poop in a normal old bathroom, in a pooping place, a koproni, a place to poop, which you can see an example of on the slideshow here, the horrible Roman public bathroom, just a nightmare. But that's a place where if you dream that you're pooping there, it's a good sign. It's good, because that means you're going to be chilling. All the worries that you have are going to squeeze on out. Your brain's just like poop is coming out of your body. And the idea here, which perhaps it bears close reading a little bit, is that poop is a kind of an excess, an unnecessary excess which it is healthy for you to purge from yourself. So that's why it's analogized to worries and cares, concerns. which, if you dream that you're pooping in a normal restroom, means you're going to be free of in the future. And on this point, Artemidorus makes a bit of a connection with ancient medical theory, which I want to talk about a little bit now. And I'm summarizing the views of Galen here, but they are views that are held more widely than just by him. Basically, anyone who's got a humoral theory of how the human body works with the four humors, phlegm, blood, the two colors of bile, has this kind of theory of pooping. So the basic metaphor for digestion in Galen and a lot of ancient medical writers is fire, is burning. You have an inner heat, even a vital heat, which is identical with your being alive, which burns food. And because of that fire, nutrients and warmth kind of emanate throughout the body. So a process by which food is turned into body. But when you burn something, there is usually something left over, right? Your ash, your embers, your coals, and all that. And in the ancient medical schema, that leftover stuff is black bile, which is healthy in a balanced amount. You do need a little bit of it in your body. It's important for doing certain functions. But there's a problem. You're constantly burning food, so you're constantly making more and more leftovers, and the leftovers pile up. So what are you going to do to avoid having too much black bile? Well, try pooping. Poop is the ash of your body fire. It is a way of getting extra black bile out of you. And that's why there's the sense in ancient medicine that it's something that's really important to get out, to maintain the balance of humors in your body. Now, the word that I'm translating as leftovers here is paratoma. Sometimes it's parasoma, depending on which dialect you're looking at. Odds and ends. It's related to the word for odd numbers in Greek. Something with a little bit of something left over. And the same word appears in that Dikaiarchus fragment I mentioned, the one that says that people in the Golden Age did not poop. What he's saying in that fragment actually is that before there was agriculture, before we lived in these agricultural societies where we lived in one place, grew grain, and mostly ate grain for our calories, before that situation arose, people did not have to poop. There was no paratoma to those people. They had no leftovers. And that's a biological claim, kind of. Or you could read it as a biological claim. Say, well, maybe they had a different internal structure of digestion such that they didn't produce any ash. But aside from that being hard to square with this kind of pretty consistent metaphorics of fire as digestion, Dikaiarchus also seems to think that biology is constant, that species have a constant biology throughout time. And this is an absolutely standard peripatetic or Aristotelian belief. So probably the thing that he's actually saying here is he's making a claim about diet. He's saying that what people ate in the Golden Age, before agriculture, did not leave any leftovers. It's like you're burning oil in a furnace instead of coal or wood. There are no leftovers. And if there are no leftovers, then there is no need to poop. Now, this is a reading that fits well with Greek views about the Golden Age in general, because in those views, and you'll know if you've ever read any of the classical accounts of this in Hesiod or Virgil, within the Greek and Roman view of the Golden Age, food and diet loom really large. The big deal about the Golden Age is that the earth gives food aphonos, without grudging. You don't have to work to get food out of the earth in the Golden Age. And moreover, the earth just gives us the food that is right for us to have. Natural food. We eat it then, and we're part of a kind of a natural feeding relation with the earth, which is giving us the right fuel for our fire. So if the food is appropriate to the fire, artios, why would there be any leftovers? Leftovers are an indication of some kind of inadequacy or maladjustment between the food and the eater. So Dikaerchus' remark here, which comes from his Bile, his Life of Hellas, his kind of cultural history of Greece, is part of an interesting anti-agrarian strain in Greek thought, a strain that's opposed to agriculture, that recognizes that grain and the stuff that comes from grain is kind of nasty synthetic food, and recognizes that this agrarian society is a kind of a trap that we've fallen into, not something that we can really escape now, except in our imagination, by talking about the Golden Age, by working on certain forms of pastoral, in which what people actually eat is meat, dairy, fruit, and wine. Even though grain's present, it's not something they eat a lot. So there's this strain of thought in the Greco-Roman worlds. It's not the thing that we mostly hear about when Greeks are talking about agriculture. They're mostly in favor of it, but we should be aware that it's there, and especially that it kind of undergirds the whole Greco-Roman notion of pastoral, something that I'm going to be talking about a lot in my class next quarter, because we're reading this pastoral novel, Daphnis and Chloe. Well, so like I said, there is this other strain of thought, and speaking of strain, don't try the no poop promise at home, because you cannot recover the Golden Age diet just as an individual. You can't get there. You live in this agro-industrial society that doesn't really make a lot of room for recovering whatever the Golden Age diet was. And if you try, you're just going to end up dying of megacolon like John Wayne. I do encourage you not to look any of that up on Wikipedia. But you should know, as the Greeks did, that a no-poop world is possible if we all work together to achieve it. And on that note, I leave you for this week, and I'll see you back here, same time, same place.